We're going to be in a psalm, Psalm 37, one of my favorite psalms. And if you are a young person and you're like just trying to figure out which direction you want to go in life or what you want your life to look like or who you want to marry or what job you want to do, Psalm 37 has some advice for you. Or if you're more like me and you're kind of midstream in life, right? And you're like at that middle age point and your life hasn't turned out maybe exactly as you thought. Or maybe it's fine, but there's been plenty of, hardships or disappointments along the way. Then Psalm 37 has some advice for you. And if maybe you're kind of approaching the end of life, and maybe your funeral could actually be happening in the next 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 3 years, or whatever, Psalm 37 actually says to you, hey, I got some good news for you. So Psalm 37, regardless of what stage of life you're at, Psalm 37 has a word for you this morning, all right? And so I'm super excited to dig into this with you and to look at what Psalm 37 has to say and to explore really this question. This is the dominant question that Psalm 37 is asking. Is being a godly person really worth it? Is doing what's right and being a good person and following God really worth it in the grand scheme of your life? And that particular question highlighted, here's just the way one person actually asked it. In a actual simple little chat online, this person asked this question: has anyone else ever wondered if being a good person is really worth it? Seems like we spend our lives doing what's right, playing by the rules, obeying the law, and what do we get for it? Overworked and underpaid in some crappy 9-to-5 job with a boss on a power trip. Sometimes I think that the drug dealers and the robbers and the thugs and the muggers and the thieves and the greedy politicians of society are actually better off. And sometimes it feels that way, doesn't it? Like sometimes you're going about your life and you're trying to do what's right and you want to please God and you're scrolling through your Instagram and you're like, man, their life looks so much better than mine, right? You're looking at the people around you and it's like, man, they make no effort necessarily to follow Jesus and to do what's right. And it just seems like their life is working better, or at least it's better off, and they're having more fun and they got more stuff and they got all the toys. And life looks good for them. My life doesn't feel so good all the time. My life is hard. Sometimes it feels that way, doesn't it? That's the subject of Psalm 37. Sometimes that question maybe is even a little more gut-wrenching. And maybe some of you in here can relate to this. You and your spouse desperately would love to have kids. And you've been trying for years to have kids, right? And you've been trying to have kids, and no luck, and you're praying. Maybe you're praying and fasting, and you're seeking Jesus, and Lord, we'd love to have a kid and raise them for you, and you're trying, and no luck. And then finally you get pregnant, and then you have a miscarriage. You're like, Lord. And you're looking around. You're looking around at the other people, and you're like, Lord, you gave them kids, and they're terrible parents. We would do a better job than that. Why? Right? I mean, I'm honest with that. I've had several friends and even some family members who that's their situation. And it's like, Lord, it seems like their life is better off and they're not making any effort to do what's right. And here we are. We just want to honor you with our family. And is being good and being godly really worth it? Does it really work out? Or maybe like your whole dream in life has just been to be a wife and a mom. And you've set high standards because you want to honor Jesus with your life and with your marriage and with your relationships. And here you are pushing your upper 20s and it's like, God, I just always wanted to be a wife and a mom. And where's Mr. Right? I'm praying and I'm seeking and I'm trying to honor you with that. It's true, right? Or maybe you're 40, 45, 50, and you're like, I have worked hard, I have busted my backside, I've acted with integrity. I've been honest. I've been responsible. I've been faithful. And I have been overlooked for every single stinking promotion. And other people keep getting the promotions. Is being godly and being good and doing what's right really worth it? Really worth it? That's the topic that Psalm 37 wrestles with. The way Psalm 37 begins, verse 1, it simply says this: don't be upset because of evildoers. Don't be envious towards wrongdoers. And that word upset, some translations say fret. The idea of the word upset or fret is that you're marked by disappointment. You're marked by discouragement. You're marked by jealousy. Man, look at them. Look at them. And then look at me. And so now you're discouraged and disappointed and jealous and resentful and frustrated because your life isn't going the way, if I followed God, I thought it would be like, and now it's not, right? Don't be upset. Don't fret. Don't be resentful. Don't be envious. Don't be jealous. But Lord, sometimes it seems like it makes good sense because their life seems to be working out better than mine. Their life seems to be more fun than mine. The things I long for in life, the things my heart wants more than anything else, they seem to have, and I don't. So you're telling me, Lord, not to fret. Don't be upset. Don't be aggravated by all that, but it is aggravating. You tell me not to be envious, but sometimes, Lord, it seems like envy kind of makes sense and jealousy kind of makes sense. So why should we not be envious? Why should we not be upset by it? Why should we not fret by the fact that sometimes those who are far from God, their life seems better than our life? Their life seems to go smoother. They seem to have more fun. They're enjoying the good life, and we're just kind of limping along here in life, right? Like, why should we not be envious? Why should we not be upset by that? And the psalmist, this is what he says. He says this. I'm over 50 now. I got to get my reading glasses. He says this. He says, trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and cultivate faithfulness. Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in him, and he will do it. He will bring forth your righteousness as the light and your judgment as the noonday. Let's just pause right there for a second and just listen to those first handful of verses. Trust in the Lord and do good. What he's saying is, look, just count on God. Count on God, right? Bank on him. Depend on him. Put your confidence in God and just do good. Just keep doing good. And when your life isn't always going smoothly, or you're not always sure which way to go, or it looks like other people are better off, that could be hard. But he's saying, just do it. Just do it. Just trust in God. Count on him. And do what's right. Dwell in the land and cultivate faithfulness. In other words, just plant your feet where you're at, and you just keep doing what's right. Some translations actually are quite a bit different. The Hebrew in that particular verse is a little bit challenging. Some say, dwell in the land and find security or enjoy safe pasture, right? So it's a little confusing on how to read the Hebrew. Either cultivate faithfulness or trust God's faithfulness, or the outcome of that is security, safety, right? But either way, the point is you just plant your feet where you're at. You continue to fix your gaze on God. You continue to do what's right. Just do that. Then he says, delight yourself in the Lord. Hear that verb, delight. When you delight in something, what does that feel like? Like if you were going to delight in the Lord, what does that feel like? Like delight yourself. When there's things that you just enjoy, right? They're just fun, they're pleasant, right? You just delight yourself in those, right? He says, do that with God. Make God your one and ultimate pleasure in life. Your highest good, your greatest pleasure, your greatest joy, that's found in God. So delight yourself in God, and what will God do? He'll give you the desires of your heart. Hang on to that. We'll come back to that in a second, all right? Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to him. Commit your way means like the way of your life. Which direction is your life going to go? Which direction is your life going to take? What shape will your life look like? When you make your decisions, you make your decisions based on what God said. You go God's way. So you commit your way to, Lord, my life is in your hands. The direction of my life is going to follow your ways. The outcome of my life, I'm going to count on you for that. So here's the way of my life, God. I hand it over to you. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in him. And here's what he's going to do, it says. He will make your righteousness shine like the sun. He will vindicate you. When it says bring forth your judgment, he's going to vindicate you. In other words, eventually, God's going to show that you going his way was the right way to go. Eventually, God's going to vindicate you and make it obvious to you and to everyone else that you chose the right path. And even though it was a difficult path, even though it didn't always look right, even look like other people were succeeding and getting along better off in life, you chose the right path. He will make your righteousness shine like the sun, and it'll be obvious that you chose the good and the right path. And then he goes on in verse 7 and he says this. He says, rest in the Lord. Rest in the Lord. When you're fretting and you're aggravated and you're anxious, right? That's not restful. Right? That's striving. That's frustration. It's just maddening. When you look at other people and you're jealous and you're envious, that's not restful. Here he says, rest in the Lord. It's the idea of relax. Just relax, because God's got this. God knows what he's doing. He knows what life is about. He knows what he's talking about. So when God says, go this way and ultimately it'll be good for you, relax. God knows what he's talking about. Trust him. Rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. It may not seem like the payoff is happening anytime soon. Wait patiently for the Lord. Wait patiently. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what he means when he says, my way is the good and right way. Don't fret. Don't be upset because of him who prospers in his way, because of the man who carries out his wicked schemes. You're scrolling through your news feed, right? And you're seeing all these people and their life seems so much better, and they don't have a care in the world, and they certainly don't care about Jesus or God or doing what's right. And their life looks so much better, right? It looks so much better. Don't fret. Don't be anxious. Don't be envious. Rest in the Lord. Because God's way has a greater payday than anything they have. In fact, that's where the psalmist goes. But before we look at that, the point of verses 3 through 7 is simply this: count on God. Right? Like when you are trying to decide, if you're a young person, you're like, what do I want my life to look like in the future? What Psalm 37, 3 through 7 is saying is count on God. Commit to God. Depend on God. Listen to God. Go God's way. It's worth it. It's worth it. Even if it doesn't always look like it, it's worth it. So you go God's way. Count on God. And when you think of that phrase, count on God, I mean, like when someone says, well, she's a person you can count on. Like when someone says that about you or your daughter or your son, he's a person you can count on. That's a good thing, right? Like to be able to count on somebody means what? It means you can trust them. It means if they said they're going to do it, they'll do it, right? Like they gave you their word is good, you can count on them, it's going to happen, it'll get done, right? Count on God. And when someone says the opposite, well, I rarely ever ask them to do anything because I just can't count on her. Or I just can't count on him. Right? Like we know that feeling, right? Like, so what kind of person is God? Is God a person you would say, I can count on him? Or is God the kind of person you say, I just really can't count on him? What kind of person is God? The psalmist believes God's the kind of person you can count on. You can count on. So he says, trust in him. Commit your way to him. Delight in him. Do good, and God will make it obvious eventually that you chose the right path. God's the kind of person you can count on. So count on God. Now, why is that? Why is that? Well, look at verse 8 and following. We're just going to walk down through the next handful of verses, and what I want you to see is the contrast between the outcome of following God's way and the outcome of going your own way. All right? What's the two different outcomes of these two different approaches to life? He says in verse 8, cease from anger, forsake wrath, don't be upset, don't fret, right? Where this frustration over their way, right? Don't fret, it only leads to evil doing. And that's true. When you're disappointed, discouraged, right? Envious, it just leads you to do stupid and wrong stuff. So don't do that, he says. Why? Here's why. Verse 9, because evildoers, those who are apart from God, those who are far from God, those who are going their own way in life, evildoers will be cut off. They'll be cut off. Their life is going to be chopped off. But in contrast, those who go God's way, those who wait for the Lord, they will inherit the land. They will possess the land. You think their life looks so good right now because they've got and they have and they're going? Someday you can have the whole earth. You can possess the land. Yet, he says in verse 10, a little while, and the wicked will be no more. They're going to be cut off. It's going to be a dead-end street. Their way of life is going to be no more. And you'll look carefully for them. Where did he go? Where did she go? And yet, you'll not find them because there'll be no more. They're not going to be there. But the humble, or some translations, the lowly, or probably more literally, the meek will inherit the land. There's that phrase again, the lowly, the humble, those who simply count on God and bank on God. Those people who just do what's right, count on God, guess what? They're going to possess the earth. They're going to inherit the land. And the reason I say the earth is because when Jesus actually gives the Beatitudes, he quotes Psalm 37:11. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Jesus understands land to be the whole world. You want the whole world? You want the whole world? Guess what? Go God's way. Humble yourself before him and go his way, because the meek will inherit the earth and will delight themselves in abundant prosperity. God's got good plans. God's got a new world coming. Do you want to be part of it? Do you want to be part of it? Keep reading. Verse 12, the wicked plots against the righteous, gnashes his teeth at him, but the Lord laughs at him. Here's this person over here going his own way. He's got power, he's got strength, he's got authority, and he's going to use people, right? He's going to use righteous people to get ahead. He's going to use righteous people. Sometimes it seems like unrighteousness prevails. This last year of life has felt that way. Unrighteousness is prevailing, right? And righteousness is not. But the Lord laughs at powerful, unrighteous people. Because why? Because he knows their day is coming. He knows their day is coming. The wicked have drawn the sword. They've bent their bow, right? They plan on doing harm to righteous people so that they can get ahead. But what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Verse 15, their sword will pierce their own heart. In other words, their own plans to use their power and their authority to do violence and harm to others is going to come back and bite them. They're going to get what they deserve. Their bow is going to be broken. Verse 16, do you believe this? Better is the little of the righteous than the abundance of many people who are far from God. Better to have a small house and a beater car, right? And have just enough in the bank account to put food on the table and pay your bills. Better is that than going on all these great vacations around the world and filling your Instagram feed with all the highlight reels of your life that everyone's jealous of. Do you believe it? Better is the little of the righteous than the abundance of many wicked. Why? Because the arms of the wicked will be broken. In other words, their arms are what they've built up their wealth with. Their arms is what they've used to get ahead. And guess what? Their power, their strength is going to be broken. But the Lord sustains the righteous. The Lord sustains, upholds the righteous. The Lord knows the day of the blameless. If you're walking with God, God knows your days. And to know in Hebrew isn't just to be, oh yeah, I know how many days. To know is intimate, interactive relationship. Right? Like if you're walking with God and you're going His way and you're delighting in Him and you've trusted yourself to Him, the Lord knows. He's intimately involved in your days. And their inheritance will be how long? Forever. Forever. Their inheritance will be forever. They will not be ashamed in the time of evil. In the days of famine they will have an abundance. But the wicked, those who are apart from God and going their own way, the wicked will perish. And the enemies of the Lord will vanish like the glory of the pastures. Like smoke, they will vanish away. Now, we know that image is familiar to us here in Boise, right? Like they will vanish like the glory of the pastures. In just a few short months, you'll look out the window out here, you'll see the Boise foothills, the snow will be gone, and they will be what color? Green. They'll be a lovely green color. And 6 weeks later, they'll be an ugly brown, right? That's the image. That's the picture. That just like that, short term as that, in 6 weeks it goes from pretty green to ugly brown. And guess what? Those who go their own way, their life is going to just be cut off and vanish like grass that just fades from spring to summer. It's just going to vanish. Like smoke, like your breath on a cold morning. Whew, and then it's gone. That's what's going to happen to those who go their own way. So it might look like their life is flourishing. It might look like they're having all the fun. It might look like everything is amazing and great and wonderful for them. And you might wonder how your life could even be like anything like that. And he's saying, hold on. The good life of those who go their own way, the good life of that has no future. There's no future in it. There's no future in going your own way. Temporary pleasure leads to forever displeasure. There's no future in it. There's no future in it. But the life of those who walk with God and go God's way, oh, it's got a magnificent, glorious future. They're going to possess the earth. The whole world will be theirs. They have an inheritance that's forever. God knows their days and knows their ways, and He's going to walk with them through it. And so if you just look at the ultimate future of these two different kinds of people, one ends in being cut off. One ends in their power being broken. One ends in being pierced through by their own wicked schemes. One ends in vanishing like smoke, like your breath on a cold morning. And one ends in enjoying the entire world and everything that God has to offer forever. Which one do you want now? Which one do you want now? How can you be assured of this? How can you know that this is the way it is? Well, look at verse 23 and 24. The steps of a man, the steps of a person are established by the Lord. And He, catch this, God, He delights in His way. Do you catch that? God is establishing the steps of your life. He's leading you where He wants you to go as you walk with Him. And not just that, God, not just you delighting in God, God delights in you. God delights in you. And that's why you can count on Him. That's why you know what He said is true. That's why He's promised you this great and glorious future. God delights in you and in your way. And then in verse 24, he says this, when this person falls, he will not be hurled headlong because the Lord is the one who holds his hand. As you go about your life and as you walk through your life, who holds your hand? You won't be hurled headlong if the Lord holds your hand. Now, what does that mean, hurled headlong? Friday morning, I was over at my son and daughter-in-law's house. My son was at work, and my daughter-in-law had a doctor's appointment, so my wife and I went over there to watch Emmy and Violet. Emmy is 6 weeks old. Violet is 2 years old. Violet may be watching online right now, so if you're watching Violet, Papa says hi, all right? They attend church here, and we went upstairs, Violet and I, to get some toys from her bedroom. And so we went up into her bedroom, up the top of the stairs. We got her little wooden train set so we could build her little wooden train set downstairs and play with the train. And on the way back down, we've got a really pretty long, steep set of stairs to go down. And so as we come to the stairwell, what does Violet do? She reaches up her hand and she says, "Hand, Papa." And I grab Violet's little hand, and we walk down the stairs. Why? So she won't fall headlong down the stairs, because that wouldn't be good, right? And as you go about life, who holds your hand so that you won't fall headlong? Who's the Papa holding your hand? Well, if you've committed your way to the Lord, if you delight yourself in Him, He holds your hand. And that's why you can be guaranteed you have a good and glorious future. And it may not happen right away, but you can bank on it because God holds your hand. And so here's the simple wisdom of Psalm 37. The simple wisdom is this: count on God, not this life, to satisfy your heart's desires. Count on God, not the things of this world, not your own life. Count on God, bank on Him to satisfy your heart's desires. Because God's got a good and glorious future just waiting for you in the days ahead. And I know He'll fulfill His word. You know how I know? Because He sent His Son. He sent His Son. In fact, the Apostle Paul says in Romans chapter 8, he says, look, if God didn't spare His own Son for you, how will He not also give you all things? Like if God gave you His Son, how will He not also someday give you all things? So when you look at life and you're like, man, my life just hasn't turned out the way I want. When you're tempted to think, man, my lot in life just sucks. When you're tempted to feel like everybody who doesn't even seem to do what's right, their life is working out better than mine. Or when you're at the beginning of your life and you're trying to figure out which way you want to go. What Psalm 37 says to you and to me is, bank on God. Fix your hope fully on Him. Hang all your hopes on Him. So maybe you've been praying for healing for months. No word from God. That's all right. There's a grand, glorious day coming of ultimate healing someday. So whether it happens now or it happens then, God's got a good future for you. Maybe you've been begging God for a child like I talked about at the beginning. God hasn't answered that prayer. Maybe He will. Maybe He will. Or maybe He has different plans for you. But God's got good things in store for you. He's got a glorious future, and He holds your hand, and He's not going to let you be hurled down headlong, right? Maybe you just wish you could have a better job and you could have more in your bank account so that you could at least, go on a nice vacation with your family. And you're like, hang on. Count on God, because someday the whole world will be yours. Because God's going to make a brand new heavens and an earth. And with Jesus, he's going to give us all things.